In this video, I'm going to try to answer the question that has come up a lot in my interactions with Rockets fans, which is what offensive play style should a team adopt? We've seen a lot of games that from quarter to quarter, minute to minute, possession to possession, it changes. Should we play more through Jalen? Is it Kevin Porter that should be the bulk of the offense? Should it be Alperen Sengun? I'm going to take an analytical approach in trying to answer this question, and some of the answers may surprise you. So tap in, enjoy the video. If you don't know already, visit the Chop Shop merch store and pick up some great merchandise and support our channel. And you can just go to the link in the description of this video, click the link, go on there, browse through all the great stuff that we have on there. Get something for yourself, for your friend, for a family member. Support the Chop Shop, support the Rockets, and support the great content that we are putting out for you guys by going to the Chop Shop merch store. Great quality content that matches the great quality merchandise. The Chop Shop merch store, check it out right now. So with regards to Alperen Sengun, that's going to be our starting point for this video. My personal opinion from watching film is that he needs to touch the ball more, right? Everybody has said this. We've seen it when he's involved, whether it's in screening, whether it's in rolling, short rolling, and making passes out of that, whether it's in a post, on the elbow, wherever it is. We want him to touch the ball more because we see with our eyes watching film that it makes the offense better. So I wanted to know, like, is this true? So I'm looking at it, and one of the first things I wanted to do is get a baseline for what is a offensive hub look like when it's a big man, right? Obviously, the two names are going to pop out the most are going to be Nikola Jokic and Domantas Sabonis. And those two guys are the comps that I've seen. On the low end is Sabonis for Alp. On the high end, really high end, the way he's playing right now is Nikola Jokic. And I looked at, how many front court touches are these guys having? Jokic right now is averaging 56 touches, front court touches a game. That leads his team. He's number one in that category, meaning in the front court, 56 times he's touching the ball. That is really, really high. Number two, for Sabonis, his front court touches are 46 per game. He also leads his team. So surprisingly, the Kings have turned their offense into an inverted offense where they play through Sabonis, and it has really yielded a lot of success for them because now they're in the playoff hunt. And obviously the Denver Nuggets are number one in the West right now, running through Jokic, and he's carried that team for the past few years. So I don't have to get into too many details about that. So those are, 56 and 46 are the two numbers. And if I average those out, that's 51 touches. Currently, Alp in our offense is averaging 32, which is about 20 less than Jokic and about 15 or so less than Sabonis. Actually, it's almost 25 less than Jokic. He's averaging 32 front court touches, which isn't crazy because the next closest, highest player is KPJ and Jalen, who are about 35 or 36 respectively. So there's not a, super distribution. This is not a hit job on any one player. Let's try to be objective in this video and just look at the numbers, okay? So the Rockets are involving Alp in some way, shape, or form. I'm just trying to figure out if they're doing it in the correct way. Okay, so we've gotten the baseline for Jokic and for Sabonis, which is Jokic has 56 front court touches, Alp has 32, and Sabonis has 46. So 51 is the average between Jokic and Sabonis. So keep that number in mind, 51. Jokic gets 9.5 post-ups a game, which is really high. Sabonis gets about 4.3 post-ups per game, which is about average for a big man, and Alp is at 3.6, so he's a little bit less than Sabonis. The average between Sabonis and Jokic is 6.9. When we talk about getting touches in the paint, which is when you get basically within the free throw area, in the paint touches, Jokic is at 7.9, so he's operating more outside the paint with his touches and his post ups and a lot of the actions they run. And you can see this, they do a lot of DHOs at the top of the key with Jokic. Sabonis actually has a higher amount of paint touches than Jokic at 9.7, the average being 8.8, and Alp gets 7.9. So Alp and Jokic are getting the same amount of paint touches. So the three numbers that we're going to focus on is the front court touches between Jokic and Sabonis, which is 51, the paint touches between Jokic and Sabonis, which is 8.8, and the post-ups, which is 6.9. So I try to filter out Alp's touches, right? I looked at, all the individual touches per game for the entire season, which was a lot of work. It's a lot of work to isolate them by date. So Jokic and Sabonis, between the two of them, they average 51 front court touches and 8.8 paint touches. So that's the minimum we're going to look at. Does Alp have any games where he's had at least 50? So I looked at the number of games he's had at least 50. He only had one. So I had to lower that number down to 40, because for him, anything above 40 is considered really high, because he's usually in the low 30s, because his average is, like I said, 32. So I looked at games where Alp had 40 or more front court touches with an average of greater than 8 paint touches. So looking at that number, that brings us to 4 games. So there's 4 games that's met the criteria of Alp averaging 40 or more front court touches and greater than 8 paint touches. These 4 games occurred on November 7th, November 9th, November 26th, and December 23rd against Orlando, Toronto, Oklahoma City, and Dallas. In these games, we went 2-2. So we won 2 of them, lost 2 of them. In these games, we're going to look at several things, and I'm going to just kind of go through them. So first thing we're going to look at in these games that met the criteria of him averaging 40 or more front court touches and greater than 8 paint touches, just like Jokic or Sabonis would, he averaged 11.75 paint touches and 45 front court touches. So these are games where he was utilized heavily. These are games where he was heavily involved in the offense. And in these games, we're going to look at some of the advanced stats on how the team performed. So at baseline, the Rockets offensive rating is at 110 with a defensive rating of 117. So that's where we're going to start, right? That's a net rating of about -6. In the games where Alp, these 4 games that Alp actually got to get the usage of a Sabonis or a Jokic, the offensive rating was 118, which is, 7 points higher than our regular offensive rating. So the team was 7 points higher on the offensive rating better. The defensive rating was 116, which is actually about half a point less. So we're better on defense in these games for a net rating differential between our regular offense across the whole season and these 4 games of 7. So we are a +7 compared to our regular baseline stats when Alp is getting the usage of a Jokic or a Sabonis in these 4 games. The pace is about the same. We get to the line about the same. Here are some crazy stats. The 3-point attempts for the team is 43% in these games compared to 39 for our regular game. So that's a 3.4% increase for that. True shooting is up 6%. So we're shooting 61% on true shooting as a team when Alp is getting these Jokic and Sabonis like touches. So we're shooting 61% true shooting when he's getting these Jokic and Sabonis like touches. And this is 6% higher than our regular. The assist percentage, this is the craziest one. The team is actually 13% higher on their assist percentage. So we're passing the ball 13% more. That is very, very significant when Alp is utilized as the offensive hub in the Rockets offense. EFG is up 6%. Shooting a 57% EFG is nuts compared to 51 across the season. Turnovers are up by 2%. Rebounds are up actually by 2% for the opponents. So we're going to look at defensive real quick. We're holding our opponents to 4% less EFG percentage compared to our regular offense. And then just getting fouls and stuff, we actually do foul more when he is involved in the game this much. So those are crazy. I also wanted to look at how Alp did when he's in these games, when he's getting the usage of a Jokic, of a Sabonis, and he's the offensive fulcrum in these 4 games that they've actually done it. How does that impact some of our other players? So I looked at it in comparison to, some of our guys. But just real quick for him, in these games, Alp, when he's the fulcrum, he is averaging 19 points per game, 11 rebounds. He's shooting 58% from the field and 92% from the free throw line, averaging 30 minutes in these games. He's also averaging 4.7 assists, so almost 5 assists and only 2 turnovers. So this dude is putting up all-star numbers when he's being utilized in these games. Remember, we actually won 2 of these games and lost 2 of these games. Let's look at how it impacts Kevin Porter Jr. So a lot of the tension that people talk about between Alp being the fulcrum is how does it impact KPJ? That's why they try to start Bruno early in the season, because it allowed KPJ to be, more comfortable because he's more used to running pick and rolls and having that vertical lob threat that we're seeing is really not what is best for him. But in these games where Alp was the main focal point of the offense, Kevin Porter Jr.'s touches actually drops down to about 35 And if we look at his minutes, he plays 35 minutes in these games. He's only taken 12 field goal attempts. His field goal percentage kind of suffers. It's 43%, which is better than his average, but his three-point percentage is down to 22%. Free throws, 59% in this game. He's averaging 8 assists and 3 rebounds and scoring 14 points. So in these games where Alp is the hub, KPJ actually struggles. These aren't games, and these are games that we win, in some of them that we've won. He actually struggles in these games, and it kind of makes sense if you watch the film. A lot of times, especially a lot of these games were earlier on. The only one that's more recent is the December 23rd game. A lot of these games, he doesn't really function well with Alperen in the early on, and we saw that. That's why the Rockets made the decision to try to put a different center on the court with him. And I've gone over ad nauseum about how that impacted the team. It wasn't good. The team bottoms out when it's either Garuba or it's Bruno on the court. Offensively, the offense just craters. So early on, the Rockets made a conscious decision to choose a style of offense that would hurt them over one that was actually producing one of the best offenses in the NBA. So you could do with that information what you want, but that is actually, the decisions they try to make, and which does question, were they tanking, or was this just what I think it was is a coaching philosophy not matching the talent that you have. I've said this over and over that, a lot of times Coach Silas tries to fit a square peg into a round hole. Like, you have certain guys with certain skill sets on the floor, and you're going to force it because you have this agenda to either make KPJ look good or make your offense look good, because that's the only way. When you run his true offense, it looks better when Kevin Porter's doing it rather than when they play through a post player, which I've never seen him do well in any of his stints that he's had. All the players he's really claimed to develop are guards and perimeter oriented. So, biggest question of the day, right? How does this impact a player like Jalen Green, who is our number 2 draft pick from the 2021 draft, who should be the highest priority? This is going to shock you guys. It doesn't shock me because it matches the eye test, but this is really just kind of where I kind of know what my answer is as far as where we should go with our offense. In the games where Alperen is used as a hub, where he's getting high touches and in the front court and in the paint, Jalen Green in these 4 games has played 37 minutes. He's taking the most shot on the team in those games with 17. Jalen is shooting 54% from the floor, 36 from 3, 79 from the free throw line. The kid is averaging 26 points per game. Check this out, 5.5 assists and 4.75 rebounds in these games. He is putting up all NBA numbers when Alp gets to cook. And this was always been my stance. When Alp cooks, it's better for the team, and it's better for Jalen Green. And that's really who I care about. I didn't involve Jabari in this video because his numbers are kind of not, he doesn't get enough attempts to really be significant right now. I think as time goes on, if I do another one of these, I'll be able to look at it maybe a month or 2 into the season to see how he's impacted by some of these Alp games. But once again, Jalen is averaging 26, 5, and 5 when in these 4 games that Alp is getting the usage of a Jokic, which matches the eye test. So then the question then is, which way should we go? Before I even answer that question, and y'all probably already know where I'm going to go with this, I also wanted to look at in the games we've won. So we've won 10 games this season. Who has the biggest impact on our wins? And starting off, we'll look at Alperen. In those games, he only played in 8 of them. In those wins, he's averaged 54% from the floor, 33% from 3, but he only took like 1 or 2. He's shooting 87% from the free throw line, averaging 15 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 assists in those games. So 15 and 10 and 3, shooting 54-87 splits, which is pretty damn good. KPJ in our wins is shooting 44% from the floor, which is better than his season average. His 3-point percentage is down to 30%, and his free throw is 70%, and he is averaging 6 rebounds and 7 assists in these games, averaging 20 points. So 26 and 7 for Kevin Porter in wins, only taking 16 shots, and he is a plus 10. So in our wins, he has the highest plus minus. That's significant. That's significant because when we are winning games, Kevin Porter Jr. is playing great defense, and he is doing a lot of things on the court. That's one thing about him. He is an all-around player. Just, when the offense is kind of going through him, or it's him like making all the decisions, the team kind of suffers then. But his shooting percentages do drop when we win. Jalen Green, the guy that's supposed to be our offensive engine. Let's see, how does he look when we win games? Jalen Green is shooting 51% from the floor on wins, 37% from three, 74% from the free throw line. The kid is averaging 27 points per game, 4.5 assists, 4.7 rebounds. So the reason I wanted to look at what their stats were when we won is who is having the biggest impact on our wins, and it's Jalen Green. So let's connect the dots. As a team, if I know I want to prioritize this number 2 pick that I drafted, that's going to be the guy going forward, the guy on the billboards, the guy on the posters, the guy that's on all the little social media posts that we have, and I can look at the scores and the measures and the stats that are up when Alperen Sengun is being used as a offensive hub and a fulcrum, that they directly impact the guy that directly impacts my winning, then why shouldn't they be playing through Alp? The smart thing to do, and they're not going to win all of these games, they're still going to lose, but you want to develop players. You want to prioritize your players and allow them to all kind of succeed. You want your team to be better. As we saw, the team is much better when Alp plays. You play through Alp. Jalen Green is the guy that impacts our winning. When he plays well, we win. When he doesn't play well, we lose. Jalen Green plays well when Alperen Sengun and him are having a lot of chemistry and synergy with the ball. And this happens when Alp gets to be involved in the offense at a very high rate. Play through Alp. Build around Jalen Green. Play through Alp. Build around Jalen Green. That's going to be the mantra. Play through Alp. Build around Jalen Green, because when you play through Alp, Jalen Green shines. And guess what that does? When you got a dude that's averaging 27 points per game on 51, 37, 74 shooting and wins, and then when he's averaging on games where Alp is basically being Jokic, when he's averaging 27, 5 and 5 on 54, 36, 80 splits, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? I mean, the onus is on the Rockets to be able to figure this out. They have to be able to see this, that the offense, the team as a whole benefits from using Alperen Sengun. He shouldn't be an afterthought. The defense is slightly better with Alperen Sengun. We've seen what happens with a lot of these other centers that come in the game. Y'all remember my crunch time video, how, the defensive rating and all that stuff. The data is there. Play through Alperen Sengun and save this team. Help Jalen Green stop going through these stretches where he's shooting 25% from 3 in a month because you want to force this thing with the backcourt. Some of these recent games with the ball movement that they've had, we saw it. You can see it for yourself. When they move the ball, the person that's most instrumental in that is Alperen Sengun, because he is the pivot point for everybody in that offense. We've even seen things where Jabari is starting to play off of him. The Rockets need to go ahead and lean into that. And honestly, if the coach can't do that, then he needs to go. If the coach can't make that decision, then he needs to go. And if Stone doesn't see that, then he needs to go. Or if they're not going to do any of that, then just trade out Pete. Just trade him, at least get some stuff for him. It'll probably be a big mistake for the team to do so. But that's what they need to do. They need to make a decision on it and move forward, because clearly the Rockets are better when he is the focal point of the team. And we shouldn't be scared of that. We shouldn't be scared of that, of having a offensive hub that's a big man. People talk about the playoffs. People talk about championships. We're not there yet. We have a long way to go before we can be a playoff contender or a championship contender. And my stance on that is whether you can have a player like Alp on the court during a championship game or a playoff game. Maybe and maybe not. But guess what? You know what the good teams do? They have roster flexibility. Some guys can get you there and some guys finish the race. Alp can get you there. Alp can get Jalen Green to an All-NBA. Alp can get Jalen Green to an All-Star game. Alp can make Jalen Green a Hall of Famer. You don't just find guys like that growing on trees. If you listen to the streams from the other teams, their other broadcasts, they see it. They see it, but I think it's because of the agendas that people have within the Rockets. It seems like damn near the front office and the coaching staff and the fan base to have a certain way they want to win games, or a certain way that they want to be able to play basketball, that it's like blinding them to the obvious fact. Like, you don't find guys like this growing on trees. He is a 20-year-old player. It's going to look ugly in some games, just like it does for Jalen. Jalen's going through a shooting slump, and his home and away splits are just, devastatingly bad. But you deal with them because he is your number 2 pick. I think if people change their mindset of what they start looking at Alp as, he is one of the core. If I was listening to Zach Lowe's podcast on a recent thing, every time he refers to the Rockets' young core, Alperen Sengun is there. It's Jalen Green, Jabari Smith Jr., and Alperen Sengun. Nobody else. So he is going to be here. He's one of the core. He's the core. And I hope the Rockets start acting accordingly and using him as such, because not only does it benefit him, it greatly benefits Jalen Green, and it helps this team look functional. And at the end of the day, if they want to land a nice free agent next year to pop off and get into our race to become contenders, they need to play through Alperen Sengun. So let me know in the comments, what did you think about this? Do you still think that, we should play a different style? Should we trade Sengun? Should they play through him more? Has any of these stats changed the way you view Alperen Sengun? Let me know in the comments. Obviously, you got to hit the like on this video, because I put a lot of work into this. So y'all ain't about to hold me on my likes. So hit the like on this video. And if you're not subscribed to the Rockets Chop Shop, stop being lame. It's a new year coming up. Don't be lame into the new year. Make a resolution to not be lame. Subscribe to the channel. If you want to become a member, see the details in the description of this video. And you got to keep rocking with the Chop Shop, because we keep dropping just the most fire content. So keep rocking with us. We're going to keep dropping this heat, and we're going to keep rocking with y'all.